So I want you to think back to the last time you watched a live streamed event.
Right.
And I'm not talking about like a video game tournament or some massive corporate product launch.
Yeah, totally different vibe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want you to picture something deeply emotional, highly personal, specifically, a funeral or a memorial service.
Which so many of us have experienced lately.
Right. If you've tuned into one of these over the last few years, and honestly, given all the global shifts we've lived through, a huge majority of us have.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
usually looks incredibly, almost, I don't know, deceptively simple.
Yes. Deceptively is the perfect word there.
Because you get a link, you click it, and boom, you're just transported. You see this steady, fixed camera angle. Maybe it's focused on an altar or a podium.
You hear the audio perfectly?
Yes, exactly. You hear the eulogy so clearly. You get this incredibly respectful, unobtrusive view of the whole service.
And you could be sitting in your living room, like halfway across the world.
Yeah, but you still feel really connected to the room. And above all, it just looks effortless.
Right.
But the big question for today's deep dive, the thing we really want to get into, is whether that sense of ease is actually real. Like, is broadcasting a deeply intimate moment of human grief really as simple as just hitting a button?
I mean, the short answer is just a massive no.
No.
Not at all. What you're seeing, that polished final product that lets you participate from a distance, it's actually the result of this immense amount of invisible labor.
Wow.
Yeah, the illusion of simplicity is entirely by design. They want you to think it's easy so you don't stress about it.
And that design is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're pulling way back on the curtain to show you the hidden reality of funeral live streaming.
It's such a fascinating topic.
It really is. Our mission here is to look at how this invisible blend of tech, intense preparation, and honestly, deep psychological empathy all comes together to serve a grieving family.
Because when it's done right, it takes this massive burden off the family.
Exactly. And it honors the person they lost.
Yeah.
In a really beautiful way. So our insights today come from a great document called Behind the Scenes of Funeral Livestreaming.
Which is packed with details.
Right. It includes all these operational guidelines and expert perspectives from the funeral program site.
And the main thesis we really have to establish right out of the gate is that live streaming a funeral is just fundamentally different from any other type of broadcasting.
How so?
Well, it's not just about capturing video, it's this intensely managed process where you are translating a physical sacred ritual into a digital medium.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and when you see how the mechanics work behind the scenes, you realize the tech isn't interrupting the service, it's actually enhancing the tradition.
It's extending the reach of the room.
Exactly. It's taking this vital human moment and pushing it beyond physical walls.
So to really understand that seamless video player you're watching, we actually can't start on the day of the funeral.
No, you have to go way back.
Right, the timeline starts in the pre-production phase. And the best way I can think of to frame this is with that classic duck analogy.
Oh, I love that analogy. It is so perfect for this.
Right. Watching a flawless funeral live stream is like watching a duck glide across a really calm pond.
Yes. Above the water, you just see this smooth, graceful forward motion.
No splashing at all.
Zero splashing. But underneath the surface, completely hidden from you, those webbed feet are just paddling frantically to keep that momentum going.
And that frantic paddling is what we want to talk about, because the cultural assumption right now, I mean, mostly because of smartphones and social media, is that anyone can just casually broadcast to the world.
Yeah, people think you just pull out your phone, open an app, hit the red live button, and you're good.
Right. I really want to push back on that today, because sure, casually going live might work if you're at a parade or like a concert.
But the stakes here are in a totally different universe. You have to throw that casual assumption out the window. If you're streaming a concert and your Wi-Fi drops, who cares? You just restart the stream.
Yeah, the consequences are zero.
But a funeral is this singular, completely irreplaceable event. It carries so much emotional weight.
You can't exactly ask for a second take.
Right. Imagine asking a grieving widow to pause her eulogy because you need to reboot the router.
Oh my gosh, that would be a nice...
Well, it's unthinkable. So that paddling beneath the surface, that intense, rigorous prep, is what the funeral program site says is the absolute foundation of a good broadcast.
So let's get into the mechanics of that prep. Where does it actually start? The source document talks a lot about platform selection,
Yes.
which, I'll be honest, sounds like basic admin work at first. Like you just pick Zoom or YouTube and call it a day, right?
Well, that's what most people think. But the text actually frames it as this highly nuanced, almost psychological evaluation.
Really? How so?
Well, choosing the platform is probably the biggest early decision you make. It dictates the entire architecture of the event.
Okay, that makes sense.
You have to weigh privacy, how easy it is to access, and the family's emotional state. It's not just a tech choice.
Break that down for me. How does software intersect with the psychology of grief?
Think about public mourning versus private grief. If an operator chooses a public platform, like, say, Facebook Live,
Right.
they are choosing maximum accessibility. Anyone can find it. But they are also putting a deeply vulnerable moment right into the public square.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about the algorithm.
Exactly. That feed is now at the mercy of algorithms. You could get random pop-up notifications, uninvited people watching, ads.
Oh, my God. An ad popping up during a funeral.
Right. You have zero environmental control.
That sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. So on the flip side, the family might want a completely private, unlisted link. Maybe it's hosted on a dedicated memorial website.
So they're building like a digital sanctuary.
That is exactly it. They're putting walls around the stream to say, hey, this space is only for the people who are specifically invited.
That is so thoughtful.
The operator really has to map the technology to match exactly what the family is comfortable with.
But that creates kind of a friction point, doesn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, if you build this highly secure private digital sanctuary, how do the guests actually get in?
Ah, right.
Because, grief really messes with your cognitive load. You're exhausted,
Yeah.
you're sad.
Absolutely.
If you pick a platform where grieving relatives have to, download some proprietary app, make an account, verify an email,
They'll just give up.
right?
Yeah.
You're going to alienate a massive chunk of your audience, especially older family members who aren't super tech savvy.
Which is why the platform has to be completely frictionless. The technical barrier to entry basically needs to be zero.
So just one click.
Exactly. You want a platform where a single click on a link opens the video right in their normal web browser, whether they're on a phone, a tablet, or a computer.
This actually ties perfectly into this concept from the source that I thought was just brilliant. The idea of the invisible usher.
Oh, yes, the digital usher.
Right. So once you pick the platform and build the space, someone has to manage the flow of traffic into that space.
Which takes a lot of coordination.
So much. The text highlights all this behind-the-scenes communication, sending links out, scheduling reminder emails, giving step-by-step instructions.
It's all about translating physical hospitality into digital design.
I love that framing.
Think about going to a funeral in person. You walk through the doors of the church and right away, someone greets you, an usher.
Right, they hand you a program.
They hand you the program, show you where the family is sitting, point out the restrooms. They basically orient you to the space.
They take away your logistical anxiety.
Exactly. So you can actually focus on why you're there. In a digital space, people have that exact same psychological need.
But you need to know where to go.
But you have to fulfill that need through emails and clear instructions.
That changes the whole perspective. It turns tech support into, an act of deep hospitality.
It acts as a buffer against secondary stress. Because like you said, grief destroys your mental bandwidth.
You can't focus on anything.
The absolute last thing a remote viewer needs is the rising panic of, oh no, I'm missing the opening prayer because the link is in my spam folder.
Oh, that's the worst feeling.
By sending really clear emails days ahead of time, maybe setting up a simple web page, the invisible usher paves the road.
Some even offer a phone number, right?
Yes, a direct number to text or call an hour before if you're having trouble. They make sure the path to that sanctuary is completely clear.
Okay, so the digital foundation is set. The guests know where to go. Now we have to talk about the physical hardware in the room.
This is where things get really interesting.
Right. And I have to admit, when I read this part of the source, I was a little skeptical at first.
Really? About what?
Well, I read that a lot of professional operators, or even just trusted friends handling the stream, rely on something as basic as a smartphone.
Ah, yeah. That surprises a lot of people.
My immediate reaction was, wait, if you're hiring someone, shouldn't they show up with, massive DSLR cameras,
Yeah.
giant lenses?
Like a full Hollywood movie set?
Exactly. Why are they using the same device I used to text my mom?
It's a super common reaction, but it misses the entire philosophy of the funeral space. A memorial is not a movie production.
Right, it's sacred.
It's incredibly intimate.
Yeah.
If you wheel in 3 huge broadcast cameras, giant tripods, thick black cables running down the aisle,
It totally ruins the vibe.
it instantly turns this personal ritual into a media spectacle. The technology suddenly becomes the loudest, most distracting thing in the room.
I can see that. That would be awful for the family sitting there.
A flagship smartphone, though, it has an astonishingly powerful camera and processing chip, but physically, it's basically invisible.
It just blends right into the background.
Exactly. But, and this is a massive caveat,
Like,
you absolutely cannot just use the phone straight out of your pocket in its default state.
which is where the prep comes in again. The text gets really specific here. It talks about manually clearing storage space and maxing out the battery. Initially, I was reading that like, okay, that's just basic tech advice. Everyone knows that. But when you think about it as a live broadcast, it's not just hygiene.
It's risk mitigation.
It really is.
We can call it technical hygiene acting as emotional armor.
Oh, I like that phrase.
A smartphone wants to multitask. It wants to fetch your email, update apps, check your GPS location.
It's always doing something in the background.
Right. For a broadcast, the operator has to strip all of that away. They have to turn it into a single-purpose tool.
Because imagine the catastrophe of a storage full pop-up.
Oh, it's terrifying. It instantly stops the recording. Right in the middle of a tearful tribute.
Or what if someone calls the phone?
A telemarketer calling and overriding the camera app with a loud ringtone, broadcasting that out to 50 people online.
That would just be devastating.
Big
So how
part.
do they stop that?
They ruthlessly sterilize the device. They delete apps to free up cache space. They put it in airplane mode.
And then just turn the Wi-Fi back on.
Exactly, just the Wi-Fi or cellular antenna they need. And they lock it in strict do not disturb mode.
Building a firewall around the stream.
Precisely. Ensuring absolute nothing from the outside world can pierce that feed.
But even if the software is clean, you still have to deal with the physical device. The source stresses that a tripod is completely non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Which is funny because people think they have really steady hands. Like they film a 10-second video for Instagram and think they're a human gimbal.
Right, but human hands always introduce microtremors. You can't avoid it.
And over a 45-minute service.
Those microshakes compound. If a viewer is casting this to a big 65-inch TV in their living room, that subtle, constant shaking becomes visually exhausting.
I've watched streams like that. It literally makes you feel nauseous.
It does. Putting the device on a weighted tripod totally changes the aesthetic. It goes from looking like, a guest secretly recording from the back row.
To feeling like a dignified, official window into the space.
Exactly. It anchors the shot.
But deciding where to put that tripod, that introduces what I think of as the geography of grief.
Oh, that's a great term for it.
The source talks a lot about spatial intelligence. You can't just drop the tripod right in the center aisle and call it good.
Camera placement is this really high-stakes negotiation. You're balancing visibility with reverence.
Right. You want to see everything, but not be in the way.
You need to capture the focal points, the person speaking, the flowers, maybe a wide shot of the urn or casket.
But you have grieving family in the front rows.
You cannot block their line of sight. You can't force a grieving daughter to stare at the back of an iPhone for an hour.
It seems like a constant hunt for the perfect angle. Something intimate for the viewer, but invisible to the room.
The operator really has to read the architecture. They might set up in a side aisle and use the optical zoom to stay physically far away.
Oh, that's smart.
And they have to watch the audience angles. Seeing the backs of heads is fine. But if you accidentally frame a tight shot of someone weeping in the front row,
Oh, that feels so intrusive.
it crosses a massive ethical line. You have to protect their privacy.
Which leads us right into the environmental stuff that the operator has basically zero control over. Specifically, lighting.
Lighting is the hardest part.
The text mentions adjusting angles to avoid glare and shadows. And I think we all assume cameras just magically fix lighting now.
Not in these venues.
Because typical funeral venues like old churches, they are basically architectural nightmares for modern cameras, aren't they?
They are notoriously awful for video. Think about a classic sanctuary. Massive, gorgeous, stained glass windows right behind the altar.
Beautiful to look at in person.
Stunning to the human eye.
Yeah.
But to a camera sensor, it's an absolute crisis.
Because the camera doesn't know what to look at.
Exactly. The camera's automatic exposure algorithm just panics.
How does that look on screen?
Well, if the camera tries to expose for that super bright stained glass, it plunges the person at the podium into total darkness.
It'll just become a black silhouette.
Right. But if it tries to expose for the speaker's face, the window blows out into this blinding, radioactive white glare.
Oh, I've seen that. It bleeds all over the edges.
And because people move while they talk, the camera keeps frantically adjusting back and forth between those extremes.
Creating this awful, pulsing strobe effect on the screen.
It's unwatchable.
And obviously you can't bring in Hollywood lighting rigs.
Yeah.
So how does the operator solve the physics of the room?
Manual software overrides.
Really? They just turn off the auto settings?
Yes. They frame the shot, find the absolute best compromise they can, and then manually lock the exposure and focus on the screen.
So the camera just stops trying to think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are explicitly telling the software, stop analyzing the room, hold steady, even if a cloud covers the sun outside.
That's brilliant.
Sometimes they might gently ask to shift the podium like 2 feet to the left to avoid a sunbeam.
Just tiny tweaks.
Those micro adjustments are invisible to the viewer, but they completely save the stream.
Okay, so we've got the digital sanctuary built. The device is clean. Tripod is down. We've navigated the geography and tamed the lighting.
The video is solid.
But the source introduces one more element here. And honestly, if this part fails, literally everything we just talked about is totally worthless.
Oh, absolutely.
You could have flawless cinematic 4K video, but if the audio is bad, the stream is completely dead.
Audio isn't just an element. It is the definitive anchor of human connection. The text is very clear that crisp sound is just non-negotiable.
Why does audio carry so much more weight than video? I mean, I've watched streams that were kind of pixelated, and I still paid attention.
We all have.
But the second the audio starts dropping, or it sounds like they're talking in a tin can, I just have to turn it off. I can't do it.
It all comes down to how human brains process sensory data, especially when there's a narrative involved.
Okay, so unpack that for me.
Vision gives you context, but audio delivers the story.
Oh, I like that.
If the video is blurry, your brain's visual cortex just fills in the blanks. You know what a church looks like. You know what a suit looks like.
Right, you forgive the bad resolution.
But if the audio is echoing, muffled, or distorted, your auditory processing center has to work incredibly hard just to decipher the words.
It gives you cognitive fatigue.
Instant cognitive fatigue.
And at a funeral, the words are literally the entire point of being there.
Exactly. People aren't tuning in to judge the floral arrangements.
Right. They want to hear the eulogies, the poetry.
They want to hear the specific timbre of a brother's voice when he shares a memory.
If they can't hear that, they're just watching strangers pantomime in a room.
They get completely severed from the emotional core of the event. But
Yeah.
the big challenge here is the venues themselves.
They echo too much.
Oh, massively. Cathedrals with 60-foot ceilings, community halls with hardwood floors. They are acoustically designed to bounce sound around.
So if you just rely on the tiny mic built into the phone, sitting 30 feet away,
You aren't capturing the eulogy, you're capturing the chaotic physics of the room's reverb.
so how do you fix that?
Hmm.
The document mentions connecting right to the venue's sound system. What does that actually involve mechanically?
A professional operator will completely bypass the air in the room.
Bypass the air.
Yeah. If the venue has a soundboard and the speaker is using a mic, the operator runs a physical audio cable from that board directly into their phone or streaming device.
Capturing a line-level feed.
Right. So the remote viewer hears exactly what the microphone hears with zero room echo.
That sounds perfect. Is it really that easy, though? Just plugging in a cable?
I wish. It requires deep technical knowledge. Soundboards output at different voltage levels.
Oh, boy.
If you send a super powerful line-level signal into a phone that expects a weak mic-level signal, it will brutally distort the audio.
Just blown out and crunchy.
Unlistenable. Plus, when you plug different devices into different wall outlets in a big building, you often get a ground loop.
It was a ground loop.
It's this loud, aggressive, buzzing hum caused by electrical voltage differences.
Oh, I've heard that buzz before. It's awful.
It ruins the stream. So
Yeah.
the operator has to bring specialized audio interfaces and ground loop isolators to clean the signal before it ever hits the phone.
Oh.
When they nail it, though, the viewer feels like the speaker is whispering right into their ear.
Okay, so knowing how easily the audio or the video can fail,
Yeah.
the concept of a dress rehearsal becomes incredibly important.
Paramount. You have to test it.
The source talks about testing everything video, audio, and internet long before anyone arrives. You're basically hunting for gremlins.
The dress rehearsal is where theory collides with reality. And the most volatile reality in any broadcast is the internet connection.
always.
You can have perfect cameras and pristine audio routing, but if the venue has terrible Wi-Fi or thick stone walls blocking cell service,
The video is not leaving that building. Because downloading data is one thing, but pushing live HD video up to the internet takes a lot of upload bandwidth.
a ton of it.
So how do you guarantee a connection in a random church?
You don't rely on hope. You rely on redundancy.
What kind of redundancy?
Advanced operators use something called cellular bonding.
Cellular bonding. Okay, how does that work?
Instead of relying on one single cell tower, they use hardware that takes the video, chops it into thousands of tiny data packets, and sends them out over multiple networks at the exact same time.
Like using AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile all at once.
Exactly. All simultaneously. The packets get reassembled in the cloud and sent to the viewers.
That is so cool. So if Verizon drops,
The system instantly shifts the load to AT&T and T-Mobile. The viewer never even sees a stutter.
it's bulletproof.
That's the goal of the test run, stress testing that whole chain.
Which brings us to the actual event. The prelude music starts, the family sits down, the setup is done.
It's go time.
But the operator's job totally shifts here, right? The text describes them actively monitoring the stream. I see this as the role of the invisible conductor.
That shift is profound. During setup, they are technicians, engineers, but during the service, they are conducting a live performance.
What are they actually doing during the service?
They usually have an iPad or a secondary monitor showing the exact feed the remote viewers are getting.
Ah, so they see what we see.
Right. And they're reading the telemetry, watching the upload bitrate, checking audio meters so nothing peaks if someone talks too loud, watching for dropped frames.
Now, one detail in the document really caught my eye. It's about the timing of the broadcast. It advises starting the stream a few minutes early.
It seems like a small thing, but it's massive.
It really carries a lot of psychological weight for the viewer.
Think about timing as the emotional on-ramp.
An emotional on-ramp. I love that.
When you go in person, you don't just magically teleport into your seat the millisecond the first person speaks.
Right, you get there early.
You park, you walk in, you hear people whispering, you listen to the organ music. Your brain gets this transition period to leave the normal world behind and enter a sacred space.
If the live stream just abruptly flickers on the second the eulogy starts, that feels so jarring.
It feels transactional, like turning on a TV sitcom.
Yeah.
By starting the stream, say, 15 minutes early.
What do they show? Just an empty room?
Maybe a beautifully framed static shot of the flowers, and they feed the soft prelude music directly into the stream.
Creating a digital waiting room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives the remote viewer that psychological transition. They can check their volume, sit back, take a breath, and emotionally orient themselves to what's about to happen.
And the same logic applies to ending the stream, doesn't it? The document warns against cutting it off abruptly.
Oh, it's so important not to rush the end.
I just imagine watching this beautiful service, the final hymn finishes, the family is hugging, and then bam, black screen.
It would feel like a door being violently slammed in your face.
It denies you any chance to decompress.
The best conductors let the stream breathe. They let the final song play all the way out. They capture the family walking out.
Maybe fade to a photo.
Yes, a gentle fade to a title slide with a picture of the deceased. They leave the audio running for another minute and then gently, softly end the broadcast.
It gives you a real sense of closure.
It really does.
I want to talk about the operator's mental state during all this, because it seems like this impossible contradiction.
It's incredibly taxing.
Right. On one hand, they have to be hyper-analytical, staring at graphs, adjusting gain, managing modems. But they are physically standing in a room thick with intense human grief.
It's heavy.
They have to operate as a dual-brain individual.
The cognitive dissonance is staggering. Left brain, you're an IT pro managing cold data. Right brain, you're a silent witness to extreme vulnerability.
How to balance that?
The best operators cultivate this profound physical stillness.
Oh, that makes sense.
If a cable suddenly fails, they can't sprint across the altar to fix it. They have to move slowly, with quiet purpose.
You have to be a non-anxious presence.
Exactly. They absorb the solemnity of the room. That emotional intelligence is what separates a true pro from a guy just propping an iPad on a stand.
But that reverence brings up a scary reality. Despite all the bonding routers and prep, tech operates in the real world.
And things break.
The internet drops. Software crashes. If a family goes through all this trouble, isn't the pressure to deliver a perfect, TV quality broadcast just crushing.
It can be totally paralyzing, especially if it's a family member who volunteered to do it.
Right. Because we expect everything to look like Netflix.
We do. We're used to high-def, zero-latency perfection. But the document offers this incredible counter-narrative that is so liberating.
It says the broadcast doesn't need to be perfect.
Exactly. It does not need to be flawless.
That feels like giving people permission to just exhale. If perfection isn't the goal, what is?
The metric is presence. The only goal is the intention to connect and include people.
Just being there.
Yes. If the video stutters for 10 seconds or a mic pops, the service is not ruined.
The viewer in London isn't sitting there critiquing your beat rate.
Exactly. They are overwhelmingly grateful that the window exists at all. They're just glad to be included.
Knowing that connection beats perfection really lowers the temperature on the whole thing.
It removes so much pressure from the family.
Okay, so the service ends, the gear is packed up, the live event is over. But the source makes a really fascinating pivot here.
The afterlife of the video.
Right. The impact doesn't end when the camera shuts off. The broadcast generates a recording, and that file starts a sort of digital afterlife.
Going from a live, fleeting event to a permanent digital file is a massive shift in how we process grief.
Because a live funeral only happens once.
Right, and then it only exists in your flawed memory. But a recorded live stream captures the exact reality of that day.
The document really pushes the value of saving these recordings as lasting digital memories.
It's crucial.
Historically, we've always tried to save physical artifacts of the people we lose. A lock of hair, a letter, a faded photo.
We cling to those things.
But now, we're making these dynamically rich artifacts.
We are preserving the actual sights and sounds of a community's love.
Wow.
Grief isn't a checklist that ends after the funeral reception. It's cyclical.
It comes in waves.
Right. 2 years later, a daughter might desperately need to hear the stories people told about her dad.
She wants to hear that specific eulogy again.
Having that high-def recording safely stored means the healing power of the original ritual can keep working for years.
And the document doesn't just treat the video as an isolated file. It talks about putting it into a digital ecosystem.
Pairing it with memorial websites and digital guest books.
How did that change the experience?
Well, it moves from just watching a video to actually recreating the social architecture of mourning.
Like the physical reception after the funeral.
Yes. The reception is where people eat, hug, and share those funny anecdotal stories that didn't fit in the formal eulogy.
It's where the collective memory is built.
A digital guest book basically recreates that reception hall online.
So the viewer in Tokyo can interact with the viewer in London.
Exactly. They can leave messages, post old photos, talk to the family. It weaves all these isolated viewers into one cohesive community of mourners.
Stepping back to look at the big picture, the source concludes by calling this a massive cultural shift.
It truly is.
Live streaming is fundamentally changing how we approach memorialization. But the text makes a vital distinction. The tech is not replacing our traditions.
And that is such an important point. Early on, sociologists were genuinely worried that cameras in funerals would sterilize the grieving process.
Make it feel cold and transactional.
Right. But the data and just our lived experience over the last few years has proven the exact opposite.
The technology is an amplifier.
It adds this profound layer of inclusivity.
Because it obliterates geographic limits.
Precisely. It brings in the elderly grandmother who's in a care facility and can't travel.
It lets an immunocompromised friend attend safely.
It bridges the ocean for an old college roommate. Before this tech was managed so well, those people were simply tragically excluded from saying goodbye.
By bringing them into the room digitally, the tradition of gathering to mourn isn't compromised at all.
It is vastly expanded.
We have covered so much ground today. Let's kind of synthesize the reality behind the illusion we started with.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. We started by looking at that simple video player on your screen, assuming it was a casual process, but we've totally dismantled that.
Behind that effortless glide is some serious paddling.
Frantic, purposeful paddling. It's the psychology of picking a platform to build a digital sanctuary.
The hospitality of the digital usher.
The ruthless sterilization of smartphones. Navigating the spatial geography of the room, fighting the stained glass lighting with manual overrides.
Deep audio engineering to capture the raw human voice.
Stress testing cellular networks. And through all of it, that invisible conductor balancing cold IT precision with deep, non-anxious reverence.
If the listener takes away just one thing today, I hope it's that understanding this architecture removes the anxiety.
It makes it less scary.
If you are ever tasked with doing this for a loved one, Don't let the complexity paralyze you.
Focus on the prep.
Prep heavily. Prioritize connection over perfection, and use resources like the funeral program site to guide you. It changes from a terrifying tech burden into a really profound act of service.
It is the ultimate virtual embrace.
Beautifully said.
So, before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought.
Oh, I love these.
We've spent the last hour dissecting the immediate impact of live streaming, right? How it bridges geography right now.
Yes.
But as these tools become a permanent fixture in how we handle death,
Yeah.
we are quietly assembling a massive, high-definition archive of humanity's most vulnerable moments.
Wow. I hadn't thought of it like that on a macro scale.
Consider the historical weight. 50 or even 150 years from now, how is this going to completely alter the way future generations interact with their own family history?
That is wild.
Imagine a great-great-grandchild. Instead of just looking at a stiff, unsmiling sepia photograph, they click a link.
And they watch their ancestors physically move.
They hear their voices crack with emotion. They witness their grief and love in real time. How will that unprecedented intimacy reshape their understanding of the people whose DNA they carry?
It's a fundamental evolution in how we preserve human history.
It's a staggering concept to process. So the next time you click a link to join a memorial stream, and you see that simple frame and hear that clear voice, take a second to look deeper.
Remember the paddling.
Recognize the invisible paddling. Acknowledge the intense engineering and the profound human care operating just outside the frame, making sure that you are truly there. Thank you for diving deep with us today. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.